Hi, this is Monica Delamay, Lead Coordinator in the Office of Early Learning at the West Virginia Department of Education. And this tutorial is for special education directors who are working to clean up some of the data that is used for Indicator 7 of the ADA. Today we're going to look at what your screen would look like after you log into the system. And today's purposes, there are lots of different tabs we could look at, but for today we're only going to look at the OSEP reporting form. So please click on it. And please note that you can pause this tutorial at any time. This is the development site, so this is no in particular county, but we are going to go through and show you how to quickly clean up some of the information. The Office of Special Programs needs to have, for every child who is receiving preschool special needs services either in a classroom or in an outside environment, an initial and an exit COSEF, or Child Outcome Summary form, for every child eventually. So whenever the child enters pre-K special needs or begins receiving services, they would need to have an initial COSEF completed during that very next checkpoint of the West Virginia Pre-K Child Assessment System data reporting platform. So looking at this, we know that we need to have initials basically all the way down the first column. And for this county, there are several missing. So what we would need to do is look and see what's missing here. For this child in particular, I see that there's nothing that has been done. In this case, that could mean a couple of things. This could mean that the child is potentially still in the eligibility process for determination of services. And if that's the case, and you're nearing the end of a data reporting checkpoint, and there is still nothing on here as far as what's been done, you can see that on your data reporting platform, and by your knowledge, that the child has not been assigned to a teacher or a provider, then you're going to want to remove the COSEF. As special ed directors only, you have the privilege to do this, just meaning that for this data reporting checkpoint, the COSEF can actually be taken off. So that way your percentages of completion can be raised if this child is still in the eligibility process. So you would simply click on Remove COSEF, and it would ask you again, do you want to remove all COSEF data for this child, and you would click OK. So I'm going to do that, and then it will show up as not being on there after, since this is a development site, it wouldn't show up, but on the actual live data, the child's information would be gone. Now, let's say this child is deemed eligible for special education services. The next checkpoint would pick this child back up in the file that the developers for this application created. All those children who have that special education active indicator in their WVEIS STU 301 menu, it would show that they have a special ed active indicator, so that would be picked back up. So next time, if they were eligible, their name would show up. And the other thing I want to mention is that removing a COSEF has nothing to do with the online IEP. You're not manipulating any type of data with the online IEP. You're not going to impact that in any way, so no worries about that. You're only removing the COSEF for this child for this particular reporting period of the West Virginia Pre-K Child Assessment System. So for those time periods where, if we look down here a little bit, any time where we see an I and an asterisk, we know that the COSEF has not yet been completed. So let's just go down and look here, for example, at any of these with an I and an asterisk, and go to February of 2012. What's probably happened is that the teacher hasn't clicked on Save and then Complete. But what you want to do to make sure is that the teacher has actually clicked on all the radio buttons and answered all the questions. If the teacher's not answered the questions, it would be up to you to follow up with that teacher with where that child was at that point in time with these rankings, because you can't possibly know where they were at that point in time. With each child's COSEF, you'll need to make sure that you click Save, and then you go down and you click Complete. So there's actually a two-step process for doing that. And the folks in information systems built that in because a teacher could be working on a COSF and get a phone call, have to leave and not finish a COSF, so they could save it, and instead of completing it, if they were to complete it, it would actually freeze the data. Then they'd have to go back in and unfreeze it, so it's just easier to do it this way. So after this one has been saved and completed, you go back, and we can see now that there is no I and an asterisk by this name. The other, or by this date, excuse me, you're going to want to fix that for every single date that has an I and an asterisk. So that's the first thing you could do. Go through and fix all those I's and asterisks. The next thing that you could do is actually look at your dates in chronological order to make sure that you only have one entry, and then the rest would be ongoing until time to do an exit. And there are a few instances where an exit COSF can be completed. For the majority of children, the exit COSF will be completed whenever they enter or they exit pre-K due to going to kindergarten. Sometimes, though, they may exit because the family's unable to be located. We know that happens sometimes, unfortunately. And then also an exit may be completed if the child is exiting the program and has been receiving special education services for fewer than 6 months, because federally the Office of Special Programs will only utilize data for children who have been receiving special education services for more than 6 months. So an entry and an exit that occurs within a 6-month period will not be utilized for Indicator 7 of your ADA. Let's scroll down here and look at another one that we might want to fix. We would definitely want to fix. There are two initials or entry COSFs for this child. Now we know we can only have one, so this is a very simple change as well. The first one, looking chronologically, was completed in November of 11. This second one was done as an initial, so we're going to want to move it to an ongoing. All we have to do is click Ongoing, Progress COSF, and then we save it, and we scroll back down and we complete it. After that, go back, and then if we go and look at this child's now, they have one entry. Let's look chronologically at the additional COSFs that were completed. Everything looks good with this child except for the incomplete with the asterisk. So of course you would need to go in and do the protocol for making sure that that child's COSF was completed by saving incomplete. Looking at the rest of the data, those are the major rocks that you're going to want to look at when cleaning up your information. If you see some strange things, here is one where an exit was actually done in 5 of 2012, but yet we still have information from 10/2012 and 2 of 2013. My guess is that this teacher decided that since the child, it was the end of the year, that the exit needed to be done, where obviously this child is still receiving special education services. This COSF should be done not in consideration of the classroom teacher changing or of the child moving to a different classroom. It should only be done in regard to the actual special education services. So let's say a child switches classrooms, they don't get a new entry COSF if that's the case. If a child goes and it's the end of the year, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's an exit COSF. The teacher would need to know, is the child going to kindergarten, yes or no? So we can clean that up, not a big deal. We click on the date, and it says that this child transitioned to kindergarten and or exited the preschool program at this point. So I would go back and look at the other data that you have on file for this child, because clearly this child is still receiving special education services. This child did not go to kindergarten that year. I would follow up with the child's teacher and ensure that the child is still receiving services. Obviously they are. So after you do that, then you would be able to go in, and if it's locked, if it's from a previous year, you may have to unfreeze it, which you have the capability to do. Then you're going to make this an ongoing COSF. This was not the exit COSF. You're going to save it and then you're going to complete it, and then you're going to go back. After that, we now have a COSF here that is ongoing rather than an exit. These will need to be cleaned up because they're incomplete. Other than that, those are the major cleanup items that you're going to want to look at. If you do those items, it will greatly improve the ranking with your ADA Indicator 7 for special education. If you have additional questions, please feel free to contact me at mdellea@access.k12.wv.us. I see that my address is still my old email address, so that's something that I would not use at this point. Instead, use my new email address. And as always, if you have questions, let me know. But those are some of the major rocks that you'll look at when cleaning up your data. If you keep a close eye on this periodically, then you should be in really good shape for next year's ADA. Thank you. Have a good day.